I can recognize now from sitting in this seat that there's like a different path that we need to take when we reach that point where we feel like we got everything that we wanted, because it's true that it doesn't feel as good as you think that it might. And my theory around this is that, of course it doesn't, because as humans, we are meant to keep evolving. Like, that is the entire point of our existence on this planet. Evolutionary theory means that we're meant to keep growing and evolving constantly. Like, we are better in motion. We're always meant to be climbing up the side of that mountain to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. So if we stagnate for too long, it really is that if we're not growing, we're dying. And I will admit that I didn't actually know that was something that was true until I realized it for myself. And I think this is the first year that I've really come to know it to be true for me. And I really get it when people say, if you're not growing, you're dying. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Scalable Freedom Show. I'm your host, Ellie Swift. I'm so excited to be here with you for another solo episode today. So today I want to take you inside Q3 and specifically what I am prioritizing, focusing on, upgrading across my life and business as a 7-figure founder. So story time, first of all, there's some context for this episode. One of the things that has felt like it's been the biggest internal challenge for me this year has been playing with the duality of going, you know, I feel like I've truly got everything I've ever wanted across my life and business right now. And also, what does it actually look like when you are sitting in the seat of going, I feel like I've got everything I've ever wanted in my life and business right now? I was having this conversation with Che, my husband, the other night. And this is not the first time we've had this conversation. It's come up in so many ways for me over the last 12 months, or probably the last 2 years, like since I've brought Sunny into the world. And he'd just been listening to a podcast by Chris Williamson. And in the podcast, Chris was talking about how he'd just done a tour. And he was talking to this psychologist, and he was saying to the psychologist, you know, I did this amazing tour, but there was this bit every time I was on the stage, and I would essentially talk about what it looks like when you have arrived, and how when you have arrived, it doesn't feel as good as you expected. In fact, it just brings up a whole host of other challenges. And he said, every time I did this bit in the tour, I lost my audience. Like, they completely tuned out. It was like they did not want to hear that bit. They didn't want to hear that when you arrive, it doesn't feel good. And the psychologist turned to Chris and said to him, oh, of course, it's the arrival fallacy. And Chris was like, what? The arrival fallacy? Like, tell me more. So the psychologist explained that the arrival fallacy is essentially this fallacy that you think that one day you are going to arrive. And I see this all the time with my clients as well. Like, there's this version of us, this future version of us in our life or in our business. And we think that when we have the 7-figure business, or when we have the money, or when we have the certain type of clients, or when we have the certain type of model, or the certain type of car, house, whatever it might be, that we are going to feel this level of fulfillment and self-actualization that is going to mean that we can stop striving, growing, pushing forevermore because we have made it. And I got a couple of thoughts on this. You're going to hear them. The first is, I do absolutely think that there is a point, for me at least, where I hit a point where I exhaled because I finally felt like my life was mine and that I was inside my mission. So, for example, I feel very different in my identity now as someone in my business, as a mother, compared to, for example, the version of me that was in corporate 10 years ago, who was pretty unhappy to be there in the end, who just knew that that was not my mission and my path. And also, I can recognize now from sitting in this seat that there's like a different path that we need to take when we reach that point where we feel like we got everything that we wanted, because it's true that it doesn't feel as good as you think that it might. And my theory around this is very existential. My theory around this is that, well, of course it doesn't, because as humans, we are meant to keep evolving. Like that is the entire point of our existence on this planet, is that evolutionary theory means that we're meant to keep growing and evolving constantly. Like we are better in motion. We're always meant to be climbing up the side of that mountain to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And so if we stagnate for too long, it really is that if we're not growing, we're dying. And I will admit that I didn't actually know that that was something that was true until I realized it for myself. And I think this is the first year that I've really come to know it to be true for me. And I really get it when people say, if you're not growing, you're dying. Like when I heard it before 2026, I sort of understood it. I sort of got it. And I sort of thought, I don't know if that's true for me. But this year, I actually really get it now. Because what I've now learned is that for me, and I can only run this through my own lens, of course. So for me, having felt like there's a part of me that is living out my dreams in a way that I never thought I would be able to, I also know that if I'm not focused on continuing to grow, continuing to evolve, continuing to progress my identity and look forward, then I start to mess with and fuck with parts of my life that do not need messing and fucking with. I will mess with parts of my business that don't need to be messed with. So let me just give you a really tangible example. If I'm not focused on, say, growing revenue inside the business, I might look at my existing mastermind that I'm running and go, this might be working well, but how could I make it work even better, even though the data tells me that everything's working really well, clients are happy, retention rates are high. Like any business person in their right mind would know when those things are happening, that is not the area that you want to mess with inside your business. So what I tend to do is I will find areas of my life that don't need to be messed with, and I will mess with them because I'm not prioritizing the things that I need to, which is being a human who needs to constantly be focused on growing in some way. So before I talk about the things that I'm prioritizing or how I'm thinking about growth for myself for Q3, I also just want to reference what this is not. So I'm not saying that you constantly need to be hustling or you constantly need to be running at things or you need to be like the next thing, the next thing, the next thing. That's not it at all. And especially as somebody who, you know, I have a 2-year-old, I know I want to have another baby again soon. I'm in a season that needs to be more yin in some ways. And I know for you that you might be in that season too. You might be focused on some parts of your life feeling more survival. Like, for example, if you're starting to care for aging parents or you've got kids who are teenagers, like those seasons require a lot of you. And also, I know, again, for me and perhaps for you too, that if we're just sitting in those seasons and we're like, I just need life to kind of settle down a little bit and I just need to sort of stay and things to just be good here, that it's ultimately not going to serve us if we're not focused on our next best version of us. It's like focusing on that is the antidote to the day-to-day, the here and now, feeling stagnant, feeling hard, feeling all those things we don't want it to be. So that's like in a nutshell, a lot of what I've been thinking about this year and a lot of what I've been playing with. And as you can hear, I don't have all the answers. I mean, I wouldn't believe anyone that said they did have all the answers about that concept, but that is what I know to be true for me. And that's what I've really changed my mind around this year. So with that in mind, I want to share with you the 3 things that I'm focusing on growing, optimizing, being better around in Q3. And you'll hear as I speak to them, they're not huge, massive things. Well, that could be relative. You may think that they are, but they're not like I'm changing my life in some massive way. Like I'm not like, oh, I'm moving country or I'm, doing something huge. It's just small areas of my life that I know I'm going to focus on over this next little while that keep me in growth mode, that keep me evolving, that keep me focused on things that challenge me and keep steering me forward. The first one is health related. And that is that for Q3, I'm really focused on optimizing my hormones. So many of you will know, I think I've shared it on the pod before, that we want to have a second baby at some point. I'm not fully clear on the timeline. I don't know whether I will share the timeline when I am clear. But we're very much in optimization mode right now. So that has looked like getting like a whole new stack of vitamins and really looking at supplementation and what my like new protocol is for this next season. I only started weaning Sunny, I think it was about 6 months ago. And so I'm very much at a time where I really want to supercharge my health a little bit and really run at optimizing supplementation, optimizing strength training, like all of that. And it just feels so, so good for me to do that right now. So that is an area that I'm 10 timesing for me over these coming months and really going, okay, what does it look like to get my hormones to be as like incredibly amazing as I possibly can for this next chapter of growing baby number 2. The second thing that I'm optimizing, the next two are more business related. The second one that I'm about to share is business and identity focused, and it might be one that you can resonate with as well, or maybe you resonate with in a slightly different way. And that is that I am finally ready to own the label of being a creator. Now, depending on where you sit here, like that might be of course, Ellie, of course you're a creator. Like, what else do you think you are? That's part of your role. Or you might be like, yeah, I don't think about myself as a creator either. You will fall anywhere on that spectrum, I'm sure. In fact, I'm so curious to know for you. Like, please send me a DM and let me know because I'm really fascinated to know. Just jump on over to Ellie H. Swift and tell me. But I've never thought about myself as a creator. I've thought about myself as CEO, founder, coach, business owner, someone who creates content, but I've never truly seen myself as being in the creator role. And when I think about my next goals inside the business, I realized recently, like, I actually need to put myself in the seat of identifying as a creator. Like, if I want to be somebody that takes this business to the next level and I want to prioritize content in a bigger way, I need to identify as a creator. And so it's like anything in business, right? It starts with how you self-identify. Like, if you don't identify as somebody who is a multi-6-figure business owner, you're not going to be able to make multi-6 figures. Same with 7 figures. If you don't identify as being the very best in your niche, you're not going to be the very best in your niche. We need to start by deciding that we are that person first. And so this is me declaring to you that I am a creator. I have decided that I own that title of being a creator. I don't fully know what it looks like in practice yet. I have committed to learning more, and I'll share more about that as it comes to light. But I just know that I am owning that title, and it is going to become a bigger part of how I run my business. And I'm really excited about that. And the last one, which is super strategy marketing focused, is that we are about to create a new funnel for the Mastermind Model. So we've been running paid workshops for the Mastermind Model, and we're going to be introducing a free webinar workshop strategy, which has been working so well for so many of our clients across the board. And it's something that we've wanted to bring inside our business as well when the time was right. The time is right for the second half of this year. I'm really excited to optimize that, bring it inside the business, and be running that more consistently. And obviously, as I do that, I'll share with you the findings, what's working, what's not, as it all comes to light. So again, I hope you can hear from that summary, there's nothing in that is like, yes, this is some massive, massive dramatic life change. But it's where I can focus my time, my energy and attention to always be a leader, a human, a woman who is committed to her growth, committed to growing the business, committed to growing my well-being, continuing to be the best person for myself, my family, for the business. And it allows me to feel really anchored in like what's most important and where my energy most needs to be. So I really hope that this episode has inspired you to consider what growth looks like for you in this next quarter, whether it's for yourself or inside your business. Now, if you are listening to this episode on YouTube, or if you're listening on Spotify, wherever you're listening or watching, I would love it if you could go ahead and hit the subscribe button. That would mean so much to me. The big mission for this episode is to get it in the hands of as many women, coaches, consultants, business owners as possible to support them. We have so many people reach out and tell us that just by listening to these episodes, they're able to make more money, they're able to achieve more success, they're able to get really incredible results. And I'd really like to continue to do that. So if you could please support my mission on that, I would be so grateful. If you could go ahead and subscribe, it helps us to get this in the hands of more people like yourself. Thank you again for being here. Have the most amazing rest of your day, and I'll be back with you next week.